Operation Kudu is nested within the UK-led Operation Interflex, which is further nested within a European Union effort to train Ukrainian or armed forces of the Ukraine soldiers to make them combat ready for operations in the Ukraine v Russian conflict. So the force structure was primarily centred on infantry personnel. We were augmented for rotation 2 and subsequent rotations with combat engineer personnel primarily to enhance the mobility, counter-mobility and survivability learning outcomes within the package to better meet the needs of Ukrainian soldiers for the conflict that they were stepping into. We were based in the Salisbury Plains training area throughout the conduct of the mission in the 3-month rotation for Operation Kudu. We were based at Westdown camp where we were accommodated, but we would move daily to Nook camp in vicinity of Warminster for the delivery of training, which is where the Ukrainian trainees were stationed.
In the mission training, we did a lot of instructing to our teammates and things like that. We went through a lot of doctrine, and we also got out and did some physical training, including the enhanced combat shooting package.
Pre-training for us consisted of understanding the weapon systems that we would be teaching them, and as well as refreshing our skills and getting those skills up to a good scratch that we'd be able to pass them on efficiently. So we'd have 2 members, being a corporal and a lance corporal, that would conduct the training and the lessons, and then the demo squad would provide demonstrations for the lessons as we gave them the walkthrough, talkthrough understanding of everything that occurred throughout the lesson.
The duties of my team were to deliver the 35-day basic infantry course to the trainees from Ukraine. So the team was broken down into 4 teams, each leading a section. Each section had roughly 16 Ukrainians as the training audience, with 2 lead instructors and 2 demo soldiers that we used to throughout the training to provide correct demonstrations.
The people that came over to the UK to train were a lot older than I expected. A lot of them were probably from their mid-40s to high 60s in a way. A lot very unfit, haven't seen fitness since their 20s. You can definitely tell they're in those trades of taxi drivers, not requiring to do that much rather than do their job. But you could see from the amount of effort they put on, the passion they had, and the amount of weight a lot of them lost as well. There was this one person that we had to change his body armor probably about 3 times the time he came, because he just kept losing that much weight, because he was probably the most committed as well, out of the dudes I had. It was hard not to build friendships with them, but at the same time, you knew they were going back to a war zone. You couldn't really build too much of a relationship with them.
Very, very normal people. Very normal. Very, very sweet people too. It's probably the best way I can demonstrate it. They're just very hardworking, very sweet, very honest, and just it gives you a lot of perspective about the world as well. I've been around the world a couple of times, but that was definitely an eye-opener. Majority would say very enthusiastic, very open-minded, just very motivated to do it. Obviously they understood the circumstances they were involved in, and they had to learn as much as possible at a short period of time. But you have obviously a small percentage that was a bit of a grey area. But you just, not intentionally single them out, but you just kind of notice them and then provide training on the side for them in a way that they could maybe understand, or maybe motivate them yourself.
They are strong mindset and willing to defend their country at all costs. But yes, they're just normal people. The age bracket we had was around 18 to 52, but normal jobs, tradies, office workers, lawyers. I've made friends for life. Knowing that they're going to war is a big thing for them. Like I said, they're just normal people. If anything, I've made better friends over there training them than I have made back home. Each section consisted of 7 to 8 men, women, with the section commander coming off the front line in Ukraine to his training establishment being over in England, taking the role of a section commander, teaching the soldiers how to win and fight.
Our first rotation, we had a guy, he was our 2IC and he was just a cook. He'd run kitchens, but he'd never run a group through a section attack. And after the weeks of training, he actually ended up getting the award for the best trainer, or for the best coach. He changed completely from just being a cook to having these soldier skills that he can then build on and then teach.
For the first rotation, I struggled quite a bit with the language, but through the interpreters and then getting to know the trainees, you pick up a few words here and there. So then on the second rotation, you knew some basic words, which also the trainees were quite surprised about, which increased the morale. They knew that you wanted to learn, so they were teaching us on the side. Each morning when we'd go to the armoury, we'd arrive and Dobra Aranok was good morning, so that increased their morale quite a bit. They were quite happy and surprised when we pulled that one out.
It took us a while to learn the language, but you start to pick it up, and when you're around the language and around the people, you learn it really fast. They taught us a lot of interesting ones. Favourite one was Yubuchi Sluchi, which is just a very, very unfortunate, very bad situation. It made it so much easier with training, so we'd started to learn the weapon system itself. So we took some of the weight off our interpreter and we could have basic conversation with them and not have to be like, we need the interpreter to help us now.
Yeah, we did a bit of language training and cultural training. Obviously, it's a bit hard to retain certain languages for some people, but we all did our absolute best, and throughout the trip we found that you pick up a few phrases and things as you go along. I do remember chista or chisto, which is clear for when we're inspecting weapons, and kriu and bijou, which is covering and moving when conducting section attacks.
So in retrospect, there's no end of language training that can be pursued in support of this mission. The amount that we did supported instructional delivery and the movement of the audience with basic pro words and the like. However, there was still a need to lean quite heavily on our interpreter support whilst deployed. One in particular that stands out to me is Slava Ukraini, which is something that the Ukrainians would chant frequently when they would come together. It means glory to Ukraine. And we would make an effort, particularly at their graduation ceremonies and the like, to really cast that out from the Australian audience as well, as we marched them out.
Their morale was really high for what they're up against. Like every day coming to work, really happy, eager to learn. You'd be on lunch break or just having a little break and they'd be coming up asking questions, trying to get involved, develop as much as they can, which was great to see. Like we fed off that, they fed off us teaching it, so it was, yeah, very high morale, very eager to learn. Like seeing the progression from their first day to where they were at the end of that training was, yeah, incredible. They were just so much more confident in themselves, their teamwork, just the presentation of themselves and their gear was, yeah, a lot better from the start.
I think they came in with a very good attitude towards the training. They came in with a very somber understanding of their situation, and I think that led to them having a very good level of attitude towards the training that we provided them. They understood that the training was going to be harsh at times and it was going to be rough on them, but they did come in with good attitudes and tried their absolute best, which was really good to see. It was very sobering to see members from such different walks of life come together to have a very realistic understanding of what was in front of them and the challenge that they faced, but still come in with such a good attitude towards the training and preparing themselves.
We had a really high morale in our team, so I think it was more so everyone knew what the mission was that we needed to achieve while we were over there. We also had a lot of variety of different people in our team, so it was coming together with each knowledge and everything like that to be able to then go forward. So we stepped off with quite a strong attitude to go into.
There was a specific occasion where I seen that there was a member of another section. They had an individual that was not coping very well, and they identified that they weren't doing very well emotionally, so they provided pretty good emotional support to that individual. Even though we were training soldiers, they understood that they needed support as well to get through the training.
The first rotation that we had, a lot of them spoke English, so you could form quite a good bond with them. And when you had that little bit of extra downtime, or even eating in the mess, you could find out about their history, if some of them had been to war, if their families had. So yeah, you did form quite a bond with them.
The experiences I would take away from the experiences I'd had over in the UK would be probably knowing that war is like always changing, like the modernization of warfare these days, and we can't keep going back to old tactics and old doctrine that we've been using since the Afghan war, for instance. We need to keep changing and evolving, especially learning from the current wars that are going on today.
What we were teaching them over there was essentially basic soldering in an extent. And I found myself actually, when teaching them, also digging up some old knowledge of myself and stuff as well. So I kind of took that for granted. And these men and women are going to use these overseas in a combat situation. So probably taking your very fine skills very seriously as well.
For me personally, the lesson that I gained was actually off my teammates and how to work well with each other. It's also the networking side of things as well, and learning about different job roles and how we can, in the Army, bring that together. So it's been good for me even coming back and being able to talk to them to further instruct like my fellow colleagues and things like that.
The biggest lesson I've drawn from the operation actually comes from the Ukrainians. Currently, as a nation not at war, vice having just trained a nation that is at war, we have the luxury of placing a number of issues for resolution on the shelf that we can circle around on, take our time with before we implement, such as counter-UAS, the treatment of explosive ordnance, and the employment of UAS systems. I would really like to take forward and will take forward into my future command. Additionally, with the focus towards close combat shooting across ADF at present, we discovered a shortfall in our own instructors in extended range shooting, and have subsequently implemented the small arms coach rifle course into the build-up training to ensure that our personnel are fully abreast of extended range marksmanship for the delivery of those learning outcomes on the basic infantry course. The focus on bringing those, some of those shortfalls in our training to the fore, exploring them with the force that we have, and pursuing the adaptation of our current TTPs and doctrine to incorporate some of those new technologies as we train our own soldiers here in Australia.